The Zelda series is home to some pretty spectacular combat.
I lied to all of you.
The Legend of Zelda is home to good, passable, and insulting combat. Zelda is my favorite series ever, and the more I've begun to exit the Nintendo echo chamber, the more I've realized the greatest series of all time is seriously behind on its swordplay. The most important thing to understand when approaching this topic is that Zelda revolutionized modern swordplay. Ocarina of Time has, to this day, one of the most solid combat systems in gaming. The introduction of Z-targeting is practically the medieval adventure genre's US Constitution, amendments and all. Now, I'm of the opinion that Ocarina of Time, while not literally perfect, but pretty much perfect, has consistently good enemy design with reasonably aggressive and fair behavior patterns. Your swordplay is limited to a few basic combos, a jump attack, a crouch attack, spin attack, and quick spin. It is nothing to scoff at, but it is also nothing jaw-dropping. And that was totally fine. This way, you had the bare minimum with a couple of sprinkles on top, and all enemies were and had to be built around this moveset. Dekubabas are obviously stupidly easy. They're meant to teach you the natural rhythm of taking turns, and while waiting can be annoying, Ocarina of Time had tight enough waiting windows that during overworld combat, it isn't much of an issue in my personal opinion. You've got your generally good enemies like Stalfos, who, while slightly tedious at times, aren't annoyingly sluggish and provide a tight window of aggression opportunity. The semi-turn-based nature of Ocarina's combat made it easy for new players to adapt to, and still generally challenging for veterans due to the tight gaps you had to shoot. The Iron Knuckle perfects this system, an enemy perfectly tuned for precise attack trading, greatly punishable yet greatly punishing, dynamic as well when taking into account the second phase that begins once you've stripped one of its armor, not even to mention the dynamic arena in which you have to draw its aggro toward the fragile pillars to gain healing. The Iron Knuckle is the fledgling Dark Souls. It is Ocarina of Time at its peak. And while I do adore Ocarina, I have to admit, it's not perfect. Not all the enemies or bosses play by the same rules that the Paragon Iron Knuckle does, but Ocarina's triumph was its consistency. I am of the opinion that Nintendo used to be the king of innovation and now has been delegated to the prince, because they don't know how to polish their own core systems. Ocarina's swordplay is consistently good because it's a minimalistic system, and the less variables there are to account for, the easier it is to design consistently good enemies in relation to that system. Imperfect, yet far above a passing grade.
Okay, it's time for a biblical level betrayal. Twilight Princess has weak combat.
Over the 2 years since making the original combat video, the only reason I can hit quadruple digits on this channel in the first place, I have slowly had my opinion changed. Twilight Princess has flair. Ocarina of Time does not. Ocarina has consistency, Twilight Princess does not. Here's the thing, weapon skills are really fun. They're varied, interesting, and spice up the visual and tactile experience greatly. So it's a shame that they introduced them in the easiest game on planet Earth. I want to show you a battle I had on Hero mode in Twilight Princess HD versus a Dark Nut, one of the hardest enemies in the series. I think the picture has been painted. Twilight Princess has insulting enemy AI. For a game with such an excellent and polished skill set at your disposal, there is nothing that poses a challenge proportional to that skill set. A good point many people made on my previous combat video is that I failed to account for how these systems themselves function in relation to the enemies themselves. Oh, that was too many themselves. I was totally wrong last time. Twilight Princess has the most fun combos, but the least engaging exhibition of said combos. Here's the final fight against King Bulbin, a boss literally designed to be the primary 1v1 duel in the game. You fight him 3 times. The picture has already been painted twice, but let's revise it once more. You remember the Ganondorf fight at the end, right? Of course, we all remember how excellent the final duel is. It sticks in our minds so clearly. You know what, let's vindicate ourselves and take a look back.
The Mandela effect is real.
Here's the thing. Twilight Princess masks its level of difficulty and balancing with cinematics. It is undeniably the most, and
I do not use this word lightly, epic
title in the Zelda series. And it is precisely because Link flourishes his sword while fighting, because you have so many moves at your disposal, and because you're constantly visually hyped up during combat. That's why we remember the actual meat of the experience being so excellent. The game codes itself both musically and visually to be epic. Ocarina of Time has nothing of the sort. It has generally vanilla battles that don't provide you with many epic or cinematic moments, but its system is sweetly and fairly balanced due to it being so simple. Now, I love Twilight Princess. I think it is one of the best games in the series, one of the most impressive games ever made, frankly, but it falls short in these categories, even when it comes to basic enemies. All it can muster to do when you realize bokoblins and keys are pathetically easy is throw another 100 at you and call it a day, before following that up with a mediocre and incredibly forgiving fight. Okay, so Twilight Princess has good flair but bad combat. Understood. But what does that even mean? Bad combat. I'm under the impression that a work of art's quality is and only can be determined by the vision of the author. The only objective criterion to work off of is, did it achieve its intended vision? Everything beyond that is subjective. Now, that doesn't mean everything is black and white. A subjective point can still hold a significant amount of power in the cultural zeitgeist, and a subjective point about a game can convince people who never would have enjoyed it to embrace it, such as a game's atmosphere, or how much the game is like X, Y, or Z. This is the criterion we're going to work off of. Why does combat exist? To provide an enjoyable challenge. Couple that with the subjective, thematic point that Twilight Princess was catering to older gamers who were more interested in an edgy,
I don't use that term demeaningly,
more dramatic approach to Zelda, and it being debatably the easiest of the series, doesn't make much sense. Objectively, the game does one of two things. It either A, attempted to create a diverse system allowing the player to account for multiple challenges in different ways, and failed due to undertuned enemy AI, or B, intentionally made a pathetically easy romp with tons of different special moves, simply to add, say it with me, flair. B is not an inherently bad option. Tons of people love easy games. But for Twilight Princess, it rubs me the wrong way. Why introduce so many new options just to dumb down the AI and make it so understimulating? My best guess is that the Zelda team didn't know how to account for all the sword skills they added, so they implemented a few into combat well, but after implementing them, they realized that there were so many mechanics that instead of bringing the enemy aggression up a few notches so that players were forced to engage, they rolled it back a few levels so that you could play around freely without the stress of needing to use optional skills. This makes the sword skills nothing more than optional window dressing on a combat system that already deserves so much more than the enemies it was given. So, what is the solution? It's returning to Ocarina of Time. I think we all saw it coming. I hate to say it and dig myself a deeper FromSoft stan hole, but Dark Souls is Ocarina of Time combat perfected. Simple moveset, turn-based attack trading while still providing room for variables within those turns. Every enemy is designed with the same weight and impact as the Iron Knuckle. Check out this video by Nice, or Nice, I don't know. He explains it pretty well. Essentially, my idea of a perfect Zelda game is one with the weight and impact of Dark Souls' version of Ocarina of Time's combat, because, let's be honest, Dark Souls is Ocarina combat made 3 times better, while still retaining the special Zelda formula of excellent dungeons, intelligent puzzles, and a magical call to adventure. Elden Ring is one of the greatest games ever made, but to me, the one thing it lacked was a palpable tactile connection to its legacy dungeons. How do we fix that?
Puzzles.
Okay, admittedly, that's a whole different video's worth of of ideas. The general point is this. Twilight Princess shows us what happens when Nintendo fails to balance a good idea properly. Breath of the Wild's combat also shows this with its infamous pause healing, taking any and all tension away from the battle by Skyrim pausing midway through. How do we get perfect Zelda combat? Return to Ocarina of Time and take notes from Dark Souls, Aonuma. Sure, keep the turn-based combat with tons of waiting, but limit the amount of options the player has during combat and make it feel tight. Telegraph the enemies more obviously than in Dark Souls to retain accessibility. You can even keep Breath of the Wild's multiple weapon types. Dark Souls did the same thing 6 years earlier. I'm about to render this video and I'm an idiot because the solution, limiting your options, is very good. I still stand by that point, but they could have just made the enemies harder. Like, that's the best thing they could have done. They should have been more complicated. Like, limit your options, don't have so many, like, options to, you get the idea. You don't have so many swordplay skills if your enemies aren't going to be super complicated. If they will be complicated, keep those options, but if they won't be, then limit it. Just a clarification. Ultimately, the biggest thing holding Nintendo back is a refusal to polish old ideas and a lust for not being like other developers. Something like adding the fuse mechanic in Tears of the Kingdom to account for Breath of the Wild's durability is like opening a door with your foot, even though you weren't holding anything and nothing prevented you from using your hands. Granted, I actually love the fuse ability, but you get the idea. Nintendo, I love ya. You've made some of the greatest games ever, but mechanically, you gotta grow up.